Hey, I'm Jacqueline Ozdemir, and I'm a financial advisor. It's been a busy few months with RSP season ending and tax season, but I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about something that I haven't seen a ton of, and is certainly something I haven't done a video about before, and that is what to expect in your first meeting with a new financial advisor. Now, we've all had medical appointments, so we've all gone to our doctors or to our dentist, we've brought in our health card, and we've generally had a pretty good idea of why we're there. We have a particular problem that we need solved, and we know they can help us. How is that different, or how is it the same as going into a first meeting with a financial advisor? So generally, you're gonna meet your financial advisor maybe through a referral from a friend, from a Google search, or even just looking online on social media. There's a ton of ways to meet some really great financial advisors. So you've set up your first meeting. It might be on Zoom, it might be in person, whatever works best for you. Generally at the meeting, I'd recommend bringing in some of your existing financial statements, or even if you have other statements that might be related to other assets you own, like a house or property. It can be beneficial to even bring in last year's tax return. All of that is going to contain a lot of really valuable information that is going to be important for the advisor to know in order to give you the best advice. One of the first questions I like to ask when meeting with someone new is, what prompted you to book this meeting with me today? And why did you book it today, maybe versus a year ago, or decide not to put it out a little bit longer? During your first meeting, expect to do a lot of talking. I mean, that's how it should be. The advisor is going to ask you some questions. They really want to hear about what it is you have to say. What are some of your goals? What keeps you up at night? And what's going on in your current portfolio if you have one. We want to know about your investing history, and has it been a positive experience or a negative experience? We want to gain an understanding of your overall financial health. Do you have a positive net worth or maybe a negative net worth? And what's happened in the past that has brought you or got you to the point that you're at today? And just as important is, where do you want to be in the future? And what obstacles or gaps might be standing in your way? We like to know things like, who are you currently supporting financially? Do you and your spouse or your partner manage your finances together or separately? So overall, you should be doing most of the talking in the meeting. If the advisor is doing most of the talking, then they're not really learning much about you. So remember, that first meeting should be mostly about you. It's the advisor asking you questions, getting a really good sense of what's going on in your life, because that's important to know. It's important to know what's going on, the current situation, and what it is you want to achieve, because the advisor will use that to determine whether or not they can add value to your current financial situation. And I think it's really important that advisors be honest with clients that are coming into their office about whether they can or maybe cannot add value to their situation. And while most of the meeting should be about you, I really encourage you to ask the advisor questions as well. I mean, you can do a quick Google search and probably find 100 different questions that you can ask. But some of the good ones I think are, tell me about the services you offer. What are your credentials? How long have you been in the business for? And why do you like being a financial advisor? Tell me about what your team looks like. So if I'm unable to get a hold of you, advisor, is there someone that I can reach to talk about something if I have an urgent question, I need money, I need to make a deposit? It's so important to have a strong team behind them. Also, during your first meeting, your advisor should be talking a little bit about their fee structure. I think it's so important to be so upfront about these things so that there's no surprises down the road. Obviously, you're paying for a service by working with a financial advisor, and so it's good to understand what that cost is and if that makes sense for you. One thing I'd be a little bit weary of if you're in a first meeting with a financial advisor is if they start focusing a ton on investment returns, and in fact, promising investment returns. How can anyone promise a certain investment return unless you're invested in a GIC? How do you promise a specific return? So if someone starts promising high numbers right out the gate and that's what their focus is on, I would be a little bit weary of that. Regardless, after your first meeting with your financial advisor, you'll probably have a good sense if this is someone that you might want to start working with. So generally after that first meeting, you'll book a follow-up meeting. And it might be at that meeting or even a second follow-up meeting that the advisor comes to you with a strategy for your specific situation. And so after your first meeting, expect to be booking 1 or 2 follow-ups. And at one of those meetings, that's when recommendations for you will be presented. And it's at that time that you agree if you're going to move forward or not with that advisor. And if you liked today's video, be sure to subscribe and leave a thumbs up. Thank you for watching.